Lagos had seen many beautiful women, but none quite like Dara Olayinka. She was a goddess wrapped in human skin, a masterpiece sculpted by the divine. Her skin was a smooth, honeyed brown that shimmered under the city's neon lights. Her figure was something out of men's dreams, full hips, a tiny waist, and curves that defied logic. When she walked, it was as though the universe paused for her, and when she smiled, hearts crumbled. She lived in a luxurious apartment on Victoria Island, the kind of place only the rich and powerful could afford. But Dara was not born into wealth. She had clawed her way up, using the only weapons she had, her beauty, her wit, and her ability to control the desires of men. Everyone wanted a piece of her. Billionaire businessmen, politicians, musicians, pastors, even married men with wives who swore on the Bible they were faithful. They threw money at her feet, bought her designer clothes, paid for her exotic vacations, and lined up just for the chance to taste what she never fully gave. Because that was her game. Dara never belonged to anyone. She dangled herself like the rarest fruit, letting men think they were close, only to slip away at the last moment. She was a fantasy, a mirage in the heat of Lagos's bustling streets. And she loved the power. Dara had 4 main admirers, men who would do anything to possess her. 1. Turned Big T Adewale, the real estate mogul. A man in his late 40s, powerful and wealthy, with a wife and 3 children he pretended did not exist when he was with Dara. 2. Jide Martins, the famous Afrobeats artist, known for his scandalous lifestyle. Women threw themselves at him, but the only one he really wanted was the one he couldn't have, Dara. 3. Senator Obiora, a married politician with a dangerous reputation. He was obsessed with Dara, showering her with cash and gifts, believing she was his for the taking. 4. F. Okonkwo, a tech billionaire. Unlike the others, F was younger, handsome, and intelligent. He was the only one who saw through Dara's games but still played along. Dara kept them all hooked, texting them sweet lies, meeting them for expensive dinners, allowing just enough touch to keep them invested, but never giving in fully. But in Lagos, a city where power and ego ruled, playing too many games was a dangerous gamble. And Dara was about to lose. One evening, Dara found herself at a private party in Banana Island. It was a gathering of Lagos's elite, businessmen, celebrities, and politicians drinking expensive champagne and making shady deals in the shadows. She had come with Jide, the Afrobeat star, but within an hour, she was sitting on Big T's lap, whispering in his ear, making him believe he was the only one. F watched from across the room, sipping his whiskey, amused. He had always known Dara was a player, but he also knew the men she played with were not fools. Then, the unexpected happened. Senator Obiora walked in. He saw her with Big T. His expression darkened, his lips pressed into a thin line. Dara noticed, but she only smiled and blew him a kiss. A dangerous mistake. The senator was a man who did not like to be disrespected. That night, Dara received a message from an unknown number. You think you're smart, but Lagos is not a playground. Be careful. She laughed. Another man trying to intimidate her. She had seen it all before. What she didn't know was that her enemies were growing impatient. And in Lagos, patience had its limits. It started with a call from her bank. Miss Olayinka, we regret to inform you that your accounts have been frozen due to an ongoing investigation. Panic rose in her chest. How? Who? Then her phone buzzed again, this time, a message from Jide. I warned you, Dara. You mess with the wrong people. Senator Obiora. She had made the mistake of embarrassing a man with power. And he had decided to teach her a lesson. One by one, her lifelines vanished. Big T stopped picking her calls. Jide blocked her. F, the only one who might have helped, simply sent her a message. You should leave Lagos. Now. But it was too late. She stepped outside her apartment and before she could scream, a black SUV pulled up. She was taken. She woke up in a dark room, tied to a chair. The air was thick with cigarette smoke. Then she heard the voice. Cold. Dangerous. Did you really think you could play all of us? Senator Obiora stepped forward. You embarrassed me, Dara. You made a fool of me. And in Lagos, that comes with consequences. Terror filled her. She had played too many games. And now, she had no cards left. She thought it was the end. But Lagos had a way of surprising people. F had been watching. And he wasn't the type to let things slide. Before Obiora could deliver his final punishment, the door burst open. F's men stormed in, guns drawn. Chaos erupted. And in the confusion, Dara ran. She ran through the streets of Lagos, heart pounding, fear gripping her chest. The city that had once been her playground was now her prison. She knew one thing. She had to disappear. Months later, in Accra, Ghana, a woman sat by the beach, staring at the ocean. She wore dark glasses, her once lavish life reduced to simple anonymity. Dara Olayinka was gone. But she was still alive. And in Lagos, stories never truly end. They just begin again. Dara had always been a survivor. Lagos had nearly swallowed her, but she had found a way out. Accra was quieter, slower. No one knew her here, and that was exactly what she needed. She had lost everything, her money, her power, her reputation. But one thing she still had was her mind. And in this world, that was enough to rebuild. She rented a small but comfortable apartment in East Legon, using the little cash she had managed to stash before her accounts were frozen. She changed her name to Oma Mensa, taking on a Ghanaian identity to blend in. No flashy cars, no designer dresses, just a woman trying to disappear. But no one can truly run from their past. One evening, while sipping a cocktail at a quiet beachfront bar, she felt it. A presence. Someone was watching her. She turned slowly, her heart pounding. A man sat at a table nearby, his eyes locked onto hers. It was F. Dara's breath hitched. F was the only man she had ever respected, maybe even admired. He was different from the others. He had seen through her from the start, yet he had still come to her rescue. Now, here he was, in Accra. She forced a smile. Didn't expect to see you here. F smirked. Didn't expect to see you alive. She took a slow sip of her drink, acting unbothered. What do you want? F leaned forward, his voice low. You should be careful, Dara. The senator hasn't forgotten you. Her stomach twisted. She had known Obiora was dangerous, but she had hoped he would move on. F continued, he put people on your trail. You think changing your name will save you? Lagos never forgets. She swallowed hard. Why are you here, F? He studied her for a moment before saying, because you still owe me. Dara's heart pounded. She had always known debts had a way of coming back. F leaned back, swirling the whiskey in his glass. I saved your life, Dara. That wasn't free. She scoffed. You're a billionaire. What could you possibly need from me? F smiled. You. Dara froze. Not in the way you think, he added, sensing her thoughts. I need someone with your talents. A woman who knows how to play the game. Who knows how to control men. Her eyes narrowed. For what? There's a man in Accra. Dangerous. Rich. Untouchable. But he has one weakness. Dara exhaled. Woman. F nodded. And you want me to, what? Seduce him. F took a sip of his drink. I want you to destroy him. Dara's pulse raced. This wasn't the life she wanted anymore. But what choice did she have? Because if F had found her, that meant Obiora's men weren't far behind. The target was Kwame Mensah, one of Ghana's most powerful men. A ruthless businessman with a reputation for crushing anyone who stood in his way. He was also the reason F's company had lost millions. Dara's job. Get close. Get his secrets. Bring him down. Simple. Except Dara knew better than anyone that nothing was ever simple. As she stepped into Kwame's lavish mansion for their first meeting, she took a deep breath and slipped into the role she knew best, the woman every man wanted but could never have. The game was back on. And this time, the stakes were higher than ever. Somewhere in Lagos, Senator Obiora sat in his private villa, sipping his expensive cognac. A phone rang. A deep voice on the other end said, "We found her." Obiora smiled. "Good. Bring her back." The hunt for Dara Olayinka had begun. And this time, there would be no escape. Dara had played many roles in her life: seductress, liar, survivor. But this was different. This wasn't just about playing with men's hearts. This was war. She had spent 2 weeks getting close to Kwame Mensah, Ghana's most feared businessman. He was ruthless, controlling, and completely obsessed with her. Just as planned. But he was also paranoid. Dara had barely begun her mission when she realized something was off. Kwame had security everywhere, bodyguards with sharp eyes, cameras hidden in every corner, and a habit of testing her loyalty. One night, over a bottle of Dom Perignon, he asked, "Tell me, Oma, why do I feel like you're hiding something?" Dara gave him a lazy smile, leaning closer. "Every woman has secrets, Kwame." He chuckled, but his eyes were cold. He didn't believe her. And that was dangerous. Dara had just left Kwame's mansion when she felt it. That uneasy feeling. She had lived in Lagos long enough to know when she was being watched. As she stepped into her car, she casually glanced in the rearview mirror. A black SUV. Her blood turned cold. She gripped the steering wheel, forcing herself to stay calm. It could be Kwame's man. Or worse. Obiora's. She started driving, slow and steady, trying not to make it obvious she had spotted them. But when she turned down a quiet road, the SUV sped up. Her heart pounded. Then, bang. A loud crash as the SUV rammed into her from behind. Her car spun out of control, tires screeching as she fought to regain control. Another hit, harder this time. They were trying to force her off the road. Dara gritted her teeth. Not today. With one sharp turn, she veered off the main road and into a dark alley. The SUV followed. They were coming for her. The SUV screeched to a halt behind her, and 4 men jumped out. Dara barely had time to react before one of them yanked open her car door and dragged her out. "Where do you think you're going, princess?" The man sneered, gripping her arm. Dara didn't hesitate. She slammed her knee into his groin. He howled in pain, staggering backward. The second man lunged at her, but she grabbed a handful of dirt from the ground and threw it into his eyes. He screamed, blinded. The third man reached for his gun, but a gunshot rang out before he could pull the trigger. Bang. He collapsed. Dara turned in shock to see F, standing at the entrance of the alley, gun smoking in his hand. "Get in the car, Dara. Now." She didn't argue. She sprinted toward him as F fired 2 more shots, dropping the last 2 attackers. They jumped into his car, and F floored the accelerator. As they sped off, Dara gasped for breath, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "That was Obiora's man," F muttered, gripping the wheel. Dara clenched her fist. She had been hunted long enough. It was time to stop running. It was time to fight back. Dara wasn't just going to sit back and wait to be captured. She had a new plan. "Take me to Kwame's mansion," she told F. He frowned. "That's suicide." She smirked. "Not if I do it right." Kwame had power. He had security. But Dara had secrets. For weeks, she had been gathering intel, recordings of his illegal deals, videos of his crimes, names of the corrupt politicians he paid off. Everything. And now, she was going to use it. Dara walked into Kwame's mansion like she owned it. Kwame was lounging in his study, swirling a glass of whiskey. "Oma," he greeted, his eyes suspicious. "I heard you were almost killed tonight." She smiled, sitting across from him. "I heard the same thing." His eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't happen to know who was behind it, would you?" She leaned forward. "I do. But that's not important." She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. Kwame frowned. "What's that?" Dara's voice was deadly calm. "Everything that can destroy you." Kwame's expression darkened. "You're bluffing." She pressed play on her phone. His voice filled the room. Recordings of his secret conversations, his criminal activities, his deals with corrupt officials. Kwame's face paled. Dara tilted her head. "Now, here's the deal. You give me protection, money, and a way back to Lagos. Or this goes public." Kwame's jaw clenched. For a moment, she thought he would have her killed on the spot. Then he chuckled. "You've got balls, woman." He leaned back, sipping his whiskey. "Fine. Consider yourself under my protection." Dara exhaled. She had just flipped the game in her favor. With Kwame's protection, Dara was finally going home. Lagos had tried to bury her. Obiora had tried to kill her. But Dara Olayinka was not a woman who stayed down. As she stepped off the private jet onto Nigerian soil, her lips curled into a dangerous smile. Obiora wanted a war. He was about to get one. And this time, the Queen was ready. Obiora sat in his high-rise office, sipping his expensive cognac. A phone buzzed on his desk. A message. "Unknown number, you tried to bury me. Now it's my turn." Attached was a video. Obiora clicked it, and his face drained of color. It was footage of his most illegal dealings. Everything. His crimes. His corruption. Exposed. His hand trembled as another message appeared. "Lagos belongs to me now. Dara." Obiora's glass shattered against the floor. For the first time in his life, he was afraid. Because he had created a monster. And now, that monster was coming for him. To be continued. Kindly like, comment, share and subscribe for more African folk tales.